the 20th of December, 1943. The sky over northern Germany is a thin, brittle thing, pale, hard, and indifferent. The kind of sky that keeps its face when men below begin to break. At 20,000 feet, the air is thin, metallic, and the cold bites through wool and leather. Down on the ground, smoke threads up from shattered roofs and fields like slow, exhausted breath. In that quiet white, a shape moves that will not be forgotten. A B-17 bomber, name painted on its nose, Ye Olde Pub, lurching and limping toward home. 10 men hold the skeleton of that aircraft together with grease, prayer, and reckless habit. Inside, the cockpit reeks of oil and scorched fabric. The radio crackles in a voice that fades in and out like a spent wave. An engine's dead. Another screams. The hull's been ripped. The men inside carry wounds like personal belongings, bandages tied with shaky fingers, faces abraded raw with dust. They're young. They're frightened. They're merely trying to keep from falling. The pilot is Charlie Brown. He is little more than a boy, but the war has made him older than his years. He can feel the plane shudder in his hands, the way a living creature will shiver when it's seriously damaged. He glances at his gauges and at the blue above, and he knows the bad. They are alone, well over the enemy's land, with no wingmate anywhere in view. Below, on some German airfield not far off, Franz Stigler becomes aware of that same battered silhouette. Stigler is no stranger to flight. He is a decorated pilot with the weight of many sorties resting on him. He has seen men go down before. He knows the cost of kindness in a man's uniform. He also knows orders. Today, an orders book shall not inform him where conscience resides. He climbs into his Messerschmitt, throttles forward, and watches the sky change shape as he gains altitude. The B-17 drifts slow and slow, smoke following like a black ribbon. Stigler recognizes the bomber's outline instantly. He tugs the stick and closes. As he draws alongside, his gun sight aligns. He knows the mechanical choreography of killing. Years of training have made it simple and automatic. For a moment, the world narrows to a crosshair and a heartbeat. Then he looks at the tail. The gun turret is immobile. He looks at a man in their white, trembling, attempting to close a wound. He looks at the torn hunks of metal, a hole like an abandoned mouth. In a pocket in the fuselage, a man looks up at the air with a face which seems curiously smaller than the uniform that covers it. It's at that fraction of a second a breath between heartbeats that Stigler lifts his hand from the trigger. He does something no handbook and no rank can instruct. He chooses not to fire. Instead, he positions his fighter beside the falling bomber, not as predator, but as a slow, awkward guardian. He signals with a hand, an old aviation gesture. Do not jump. Do not abandon her over enemy soil. He points to the west, toward the sea, toward the bitter, thin hope of home. Imagine how that looked to the men on the bomber. The sky is big and dangerous, and suddenly a single small thing. A man in another cockpit becomes the difference between being captured and being swallowed by the ground. So they fly together. For a while, the continuums of war fold into a single thread of purpose. Stay alive. Stigler keeps his plane between the bomber and the aircraft below. He drifts. He shields. He passes by other German fighters who would not hesitate. He passes by men who will not ask why. When finally they get to the coast, when the salt air comes to lay the smoke flat, and the shape of home is like a promise, Stigler salutes. It's a small, personal thing, an ancient salute made in a bright stripe of sky. Then he banks east and returns to his war. Charlie Brown attempts later to recount this episode in England, in base rooms filled with diesel and cigarette smoke. To his men, the room falls silent, and then everyone laughs it off. You must have seen things, they say to him. The men who are not used to mercy are unable to take it in. But the people who were there don't forget. The memory resides like a stone in the heart, heavy, cold, immovable. Brown carries the picture of the German pilot in the little personal corners of his existence. He can't stop thinking about being spared. He considers the thinness, how little divided life and death. For Franz Stigler, the memory is a thing wrapped in caution. To speak of it publicly, in his world, would have been a crime. To confess mercy to men who had been trained in hatred would be to invite anger, to invite reprisal. He carries the weight silently. He fights on. He sees cities fall. He sees men go. When peace comes, he finds the world changed beyond words. After the war, like so many others, Stigler goes. He settles in a new place among new things. He becomes a businessman. He finds small consolations. He carries in himself that day's decision, which he does not discuss for decades. The years pass with varied scars for Charlie Brown. He marries. He works. He brings up children. Yet he can never rid himself of the cavity in his breast, caused by the chill December day. The countenance of the man who bade them live haunts dreams and quiet moments. Almost half a century later, in 1990, Brown concludes he's not going to allow that face to stay faceless. He writes letters to veteran organizations. He searches through fragile records. And, as a man who's waited too long, he sets off in search of a ghost. The response comes in the form of a Vancouver letter. Concise and laconic. The sort of letter a man who's lived with a secret all his life may write. I was the one. Signed, Franz Stigler. Their meeting is quiet. Imagine two old men in a small room. The kind of room that has seen much and says little. Brown walks in with the ghost of smoke still clinging to his shoulders. Stigler stands, and for a moment the weight of 50 years hums between them. They do not give each other speeches. They do not share commendations. Brown speaks in simple terms. The way someone who saw death, I thought I would never see you again. Stigler says, I didn't think you would ever get back home. They sit across from each other, and they find, as men always do when they are robbed of rank and uniform, the simple truth. They are both weary. Both are tormented. Both, beneath the insignia which once divided them, are men who once made a different type of decision. They go together to air shows. They speak in confidence with other veterans. They speak in simple style, with no excess of emotion. The style an old correspondent would speak of weather, then incidentally speak of thunder. Their friendship becomes in itself a quiet artifact, that a single act of mercy can transcend politics and wars and patrols. When the men die, Stigler in 2008, Brown a little later, the papers describe them not at all as tragic heroes or villains, but something more multifaceted and more human. Two men whose lives crossed for 1 hour of grace. What does this mean for us who watch from the safety of hindsight? We might call it moral courage. We might call it conscience made visible. But perhaps simpler words will serve best. It means one man refused to be the instrument of another's end. He chose not to press the trigger. He chose a small, dangerous kindness. That decision didn't end the war. It didn't alter maps and headlines. It didn't preserve nations. But it preserved lives. And in the preserving, it made a quiet case for the existence of decency. Even when all around says no, I have walked at runways and at memorials and heard younger men ask how courage is defined in a world that values violence. Ask me now and I shall speak about a single December morning. I shall speak about a Messerschmitt and a flying fortress flying together in cold, unresponsive air. I shall speak about a salute, a circumspect escort, a turn away being acts that counted in spite of their smallness. If there is any lesson here beyond the tale itself, it is this. In the machines of war, humanity can still survive. It may hide. It may be punished. It may be quiet. But it can be chosen. Remember that the next time the world tells you the only language is force, Remember that a hand pulled from a trigger can matter as much as a hand that held a gun. Mercy is not always loud. Oftentimes it is the softest sound in the coldest sky.